morning. It's Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. We have a personality and we have a perspective here this morning. The young lady's not a politician, but she has to do with politics. Let's have you introduce her in just a little bit here, Mrs. Busby. We'd kind of like to start out once again with kudos. And I noted with the annual report of the Humane Association, folks are off to a great start. They had a good year. Got a lot to do. You and I see the building as we go by each Wednesday morning. That's when I get my pass to get out of the house, of course. And have to report back by 10. But so that's when I get out and find out what's going on in the community.
It's a big day out, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. No, it's a big deal to get out. But seriously, I read the report on the internet, and it's very encouraging.
Well, I'm glad for them, especially because they somehow got the idea that the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Mm-hmm.
And goodness knows, every person who's a member of that has worked like a dog.
Play on words. You little rascal.
I didn't even mean that. It was an accident. But at any rate, really, it is true. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And they've worked very, very hard. And now all of their efforts are coming to fruition.
Yes, that's right. And this summer they have, we don't know when the opening will be, but certainly this spring or perhaps early summer, they'll have a grand opening out there and be a great thing for the community. So thanks to all your help out there, ladies and gentlemen, and a lot of you have contributed your pies and your cakes and so forth. They earned a remarkable amount of money on selling pastries that people donated to them. Some $4,000, I think. That's pretty remarkable.
That's great.
Another thing I'd like to comment about, and you and I just heard about this morning from Dara Baker, may not be aware of the fact, but we started the instructions out to Lincoln Rec for swing dancing. The worm has come back. Leave things alone long enough, and then
goes around, comes around.
That's right.
Look at my clothes. If you save anything long enough, it comes back in style.
What are you doing tonight? We can go out dancing. You get the.
I wish we could go dancing, but fortunately, we're going to Bloomington, up to the BCPA presentations. It's the old Masonic Temple. No, it's
Scottish Rite Building.
Scottish Rite Building in Bloomington, and they have plays there. And the one that's on both this afternoon and this evening is called the Church Basement Ladies. And I saw one of their presentations, and they're a hoot. And the theme of this one is going to be how the church ladies felt in the 60s when some people, God forbid, wore slacks to church. Etc., etc., etc.
Now they come in flip-flops and shorts, which I think is,
that's pushing it a little bit, but it happens too, But, the only thing in this life that's constant is change. And that was one of the changes in the 60s. I remember the first time I wore slacks to church, I kind of looked for the temple curtain to rend,
to part, the walls come tumbling down.
Oh, my goodness. I wasn't too sure about that at all.
Well, things do come around again, and we understand in conversation this morning that they have some 60 folks registered to learn to swing dance, ranging in age from college youngsters up into the 70s.
I think it's great.
It's a pretty neat thing.
That's
it's
great.
Out the Lincoln Rec, and I suppose if anybody wants to know anything more about that, all they have to do is call the Lincoln Recreation Association, and they can tell them exactly what's going on. But I think that's a great thing. Now, Judith K., did you have something you decided that you wanted to share with us this morning before we introduce our
No, I just thought, I like football, and so I was watching last Sunday.
These Swedes do that, Norwegians,
please. Yeah. Having been born in Wisconsin, my first favorite was the Packers. Everybody in Wisconsin's a Packer backer. Well, then they invented the Vikings. So then my first one was the Vikings. Well, now I live in Illinois, so now I'm the Bears. Well, I guess that shows I'm fickle. But I was hearing on the radio this morning about some poor soul who had the audacity to wear his packerbacker necktie to work, and he lost his job.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? You know, isn't that... Where were they?
Well, both of them.
Where was the general manager on that, you know?
Well, but him too. I mean, that was tacky. That was tacky. That was pouring salt in the wound.
That was telling him to hang it on your nose.
Huh?
That was telling him to hang it on your nose.
Yeah. But then the boss, I mean, really pick your battles.
Yeah. Well, in any event.
Who cares what necktie you
Speaking
wore?
of picking battles, does anybody like to pick a battle with us this morning regarding the speech that the president gave last night? If anybody has any comments, certainly they're welcome to weigh in at 648-5510. My comment about that speech is that, kind of put it in tennis terms, it was a pretty good serve. Now we'll see how he plays the volley.
Yeah.
You know, we'll just have to...
It was nice they sat together. Now they must work together.
Well, the proof will be there. Well, we do have an interesting guest this morning. We want to talk about elections and how we send these dudes to the various offices. And so you go right ahead, please, and introduce our guest.
Well, I'd be proud to do that. I accidentally stumbled on Sharon Steward. And I was so happy because she has for years been with the State Board of Elections. Didn't you say 25?
Yes, 25 years.
Yes. And she is in the campaign disclosure department. Was 25 years ago, Sharon, the infancy of campaign disclosure, or where did it come from?
The State Board of Elections actually was created in about 1974. It was, and it came about, partially campaign disclosure came about as a result of Watergate.
Ah.
And so when there was these campaign disclosure laws passed, it needed someone to implement them. So the board started in 1974. So it's a relatively young agency. And then so it was approximately 12 years later that I joined it. And there are one or two people left from the original who have been there forever.
I just don't really get the correlation on how campaign disclosure dovetailed with Watergate. That was like thievery. You don't have to say I'm a thief or I don't thieve on your disclosure report.
No, but the Watergate, I mean, there were the funds, the funds that weren't reported and things like that. So the campaign disclosure laws across the nation, statewide, across the nation, kind of came about as a result of that particularly.
Now then, teeth-wise, I'm not talking about an Illinois person right now, but gosh, just recently there was an East Coast person who's been in the Congress for 100 years, and he didn't realize he had these properties or these accounts. Well, how are you going to do your reporting? Don't you have to... What? Isn't honesty kind of a good approach?
Well, I can really only address, Illinois, and candidates are required to keep records. And if they receive or spend more than $3,000, then they're required to file with us. Mm-hmm. So anybody who runs for public office or any PAC, political committee, that's supporting or opposing candidates or questions of public policy, once they hit the $3,000 threshold, they have to file with us. And so part of the rule, they have to be keeping track of their receipts and expenditures from $1 in order to do it. We can't always see, most people, really honestly, 95% of the people out there want to comply. And
I believe you.
Yeah, because we don't have a big investigations. We don't have any investigations unit. We're a small agency. We've only got about 70 employees. So people want to abide by the rules. Where they get in trouble sometimes is they're not sure what they are, because they are kind of complicated. Recently, as of January 1, we've had a whole lot of changes, and it's difficult for small candidates, local candidates who don't have staffs like the legislators do and that type of thing, to comply with our law. But that's what we're there to help them whenever we can.
Well, now, where and how do you publish the changes so that, for instance, excuse me, I have a hairball here. The people who are in the city council, how do they know that now instead of this they do that?
Well, we sent out several mailings when these laws were changed.
To whom?
To all the committees on file. And then we also publish stuff on our website. We have everything, all of our brochures, our manuals, all those type of things on our website for people to see. So and if people ask us to come out and address groups, we send somebody out to do that. So we do the best we can to reach people. And most people are aware there's something out there. There's some rules they have to comply with. It's just that it's kind of tough for for some of these people to grasp. And we're there for phone calls too all the time.
Yes, yes.
And emails.
Sharon, you mentioned something kind of piqued me here a little bit here. It's a small bureaucracy, to be sure, 70 people. But it seems to me suddenly we've created another bureaucracy to overlook somebody else's honesty. In essence, that's what it boils down to. Tell me about the day-to-day operation of their oversight committees and so forth.
Of our division? It's been pretty busy the last year or so. But the main thing, we have, I said, there's about 70 in the Board of Elections. We have about 17 or 18 that are in campaign disclosure. We have a Springfield office where we have about 10. Chicago office, we have 7.
Oh, well, listen, I think that's just backwards. If you want my personal opinion, and I know you do.
Well, they're going to do it their way up there anyway, so go ahead.
Well, we're the main office, and they're the branch office,
Okay.
so that's, I guess, part of that. But amongst those 17 people, we have like 11 who are campaign disclosures. We call them specialists. And all the committees that file with us have a specialist, are assigned to a specialist to review all their reports and contact them if there's anything that they feel is done wrong, or something they feel is reported incorrectly, or something that pops up that looks suspicious. So that's kind of the main thing that the specialists do, is work with those committees. And if they find errors, which they do, and it's just usually inadvertent things, they make contact with the committee, they work with the committee, they file amended reports, and that's it. Now we've also got, in addition to that used to be about all we did. And then all of a sudden we came up in 1999 with electronic filing of disclosure reports. So that added another element of support, and basically tech support for that. We came out with a new program last summer, a brand new, totally different program that we did in-house. So all the committees have to learn that. All of our support staff or the specialists have to support that. The new laws came out. We did our mailings, we did our phone calls. We have everything up on the website. But again, it's new. It's all new again for those committees out there. So really, we're trying to. It's a mishmash of everything.
You keep making reference to these committees. Who and what and where are these committees?
Okay, and as I said, every candidate, or if it's a group of people or whatever that raises or spends more than $3,000 to support or oppose anybody on the ballot or any issue on the ballot, like a referendum, they have to file the disclosure documents with us.
Okay.
If they, and they're regular reports, and they were up until January 1, when the whole reporting again changed, every committee had to report semi-annually. Their reports due in July, reports due in January, before each election, and there was another report due. And if a candidate or a referendum committee, they were going to be active on that ballot, and they got contributions of $500 or over $500, Within the 30 days before the election, they had another report that was due. Okay, now these reports, if they have more than $10,000 in activity, they have to file those electronically. All of that is on our website for people to see. And what these reports are is consists of a summary sheet, all the money they took in for that period of time, all the money that went out for that period of time, in summary form. Anything over 150 that came in or over 150 that went out has to be itemized on a separate form by name, address, amount, and date. So you're basically telling them their campaign activity is being reported to us.
Well, if we could reference Logan County, in Lincoln, you have the biggest population in the county. And I don't recall a campaign, quote, committee. Usually people, candidates at this level are their own committee, and they don't have to worry about $3,000. It ain't going to happen. Right. So the business in a county such as Logan would be scarce, other than these January and July filings, basically, wouldn't they?
Well, if they don't ever get past that $3,000, they don't have to file a thing with us.
Even in January and...
Right. It's only if they meet that threshold. And then once they meet that threshold, they're stuck with filing with us until they totally cease political activity. They say, I'm not going to get rid of all my money, I'm not going to fundraise anymore, I'm done. But if they don't reach the $3,000, they don't have to file anything with us. Now, as far as candidates in Logan County, I mean, I don't know which ones may be filing with us or which ones aren't, but like their county centrals, they have to file with us, irregardless of how much activity they have.
The Republican Committee?
Right, the Logan County Republican Central Committee and Logan County Democrat Central Committee would be on file with us.
I see.
And what we've done with the website, before the website, they filed with the county, and the local candidates and the county centrals would file with the county clerk, and they would also file with us on paper. Well, then we went electronic, and anything now that's filed electronically is on our website, so people can see it. I mean, people don't realize that's out there. You go to our website, and you go into a committee search, and you can put the candidate's name in there, find the committee that they filed, if they did file one, all the reports that they filed, all their activity. And it's interesting to look at your neighbors or whatever and see who's... You can also do searches by contributors. So if you want to find out if he made a contribution to somebody, you can put his name in there, and it will tell you who they made a contribution to.
You know, they used to worry
and the media
about...
probably uses that.
Oh, sure.
Right, yeah.
Particularly in the fact of major candidates and so forth. I'm sure they're just all over that like honey on bread.
When they used to come in before the website, they used to, the last day of filing, there were reporters strewn all over the building.
Sure.
Trying to go through anything they could get their hands on. Now they can all get it off the internet, but yeah, and what happens with the major candidates too is they have a tendency, they don't like to file till like the very end. So if the deadline is midnight, with the semi-annual report that was just filed, the deadline was the 20th of January. So they have up till midnight to file electronically. Most of the big committees will file 10:30 that night. They like to wait till the last minute, but yeah, the press is all over it.
It's really interesting, except for the Orville Hodges and Powell's and the Republican people. Well, Orville Hodge was Republican, so I'm not being, partisan in this. But it just seemed like there's an awful lot of paper shuffling. And if it wasn't for the seriousness of some political scallywag out there somewhere, and they're out there, it just seemed like it kind of reminded me of Bill Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, But unfortunately, this has become necessary. Do you have any unusual cases that come to mind, without being specific insofar as names are concerned, that you can comment on?
What do you mean by unusual? If you get on the website and start looking at some of the bigger committees and the money that goes through those, it's really
staggering.
It's staggering. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this mayoral race that is in the news and pretty high up on the list, I can't imagine what kind of money they spend, because everybody and their brother, it seems, is running, and it's a dogfight. And I'm sure that that takes lots and lots of money. Now, in the event that inadvertently someone made a mistake on their campaign disclosure forms, who would be the one who was liable for this? Would it be the treasurer of their campaign committee, or would it be the candidate himself?
Well, what would be an example of an inadvertent mistake? You know, let's say I misfile something and make a mistake. What would be an example of an honest error?
You forgot you owned all those buildings.
That's not too honest.
No, the type of things we see are the reports aren't quite complete. For each expenditure, you have to have a description. Well, maybe somebody went through and electronically didn't see that field, you know, so there were no descriptions on the expenditures. Or they also have to have names and addresses. Well, maybe they don't have an address for something, and if it's just one or two, we wouldn't pay attention to it. If they didn't have addresses on most of them, we would write them a letter or email them or contact them somehow and say, you need to amend it and put this stuff on there. Sometimes people, you know, they may miss a contribution, or they may enter it wrong, or may enter it from the wrong person, especially if you're doing the stuff electronically and you're selecting names. Those type of things that are inadvertent, and people can, if they realize themselves they made a mistake, they just need to correct it, file an amended report. Amended reports are no problem. People get scared about it. They call us, I'm going to have to amend that. Is it bad? No, you're fine. Just get it right.
Well, that's the 95% that you were talking about. But for instance, with the four of us in this room, I'd say 100% of us are going to be honest. So we're going to fall into that 95%, but we're never going to make the news, you know, because we didn't do anything that was a departure from normal.
Right.
But this little 5% that we have hanging out there is surely, with your longevity in the job, it's not your first rodeo. I'm sure that you can pick up on something that looks maybe a little off color.
The problem is that we've got 4,000 political committees that are filing with us.
4,000 political action committees.
Yeah, committees include...
There's something out of balance there.
Well, 4,000 committees. This includes the candidates.
Okay.
And anything supporting the referendum, or groups like associations form PACs, unions form PACs.
Sure.
We've got like 4,000, so it's kind of tough to... and a lot of times that's where it comes in, the press, especially like up in Chicago, they're watching these things. And anybody on the outside, if they see something that they think is totally off, something's wrong, they feel they've violated a disclosure law. Disclosure law just isn't the reports. There's other aspects of it. They can file a complaint with our office. So they
and they probably really should, if they know full darn well that I gave you $200 for your campaign, and you put down 20, and you just missed a zero. You know, then I shouldn't let that fly by, because that's not honest.
Right, even if it's inadvertent. And sometimes people will call us and say, I think there's something wrong on this report. I think they didn't report such and such. I don't really want to file a complaint. What we would do in that case, we'd just contact the committee ourselves. And they would usually go, oh, okay, and they'd fix it. I mean, I said, most people want to do it right.
Right.
And some of the people who don't may just be very good at it. I said, we have 4,000 committees, and we have 11 people looking at those reports that come in. And I talked about the pre-election reports before each election and the semi-annual reports. As of January 1, that's all by the wayside, and they're going to be quarterly reports now. So these reports can be filed 4 times a year. We have 4,000 committees filed, and we have 11 people who may have up to like 500 committees that they have to look over. So it's, you know.
Is this a Band-Aid?
WLCN's going to get put on report too. If we don't take a minute and honor our loyal sponsors, we'll get put on report. All right, Mr. Ash.